My mill tampered with my birth control, resulting in me getting pregnant 3 months postpartum. Not really sure what to do from here. Let me just start out by saying, if you know who I am, please don't say anything. I created a throwaway to vent and cry and get support as anonymously as possible. I'm still very happy about the pregnancy, or at least wanna be. I just need support. Thanks for understanding. My husband, 22M, and I, 20F, welcomed our daughter into the world 18 weeks ago. She's a darling baby and really pretty easy as far as newborns go, except for one. She wasn't a son. My ILs were obsessed with the idea of us having a son, to the point that they denied she was a girl up until the moment she was born. Why? Because the bloodline follows the father. If you don't have a son, our family name will die out, because your daughter will marry a man and carry on his bloodline. So girls don't really count. The day they came to visit in the hospital, my ILs asked when we would be trying for another baby. We kind of just laughed it off, but my mill got more insistent, straight up telling us, y'all need to try for a boy. Over the next month or two, the conversation about us having another baby sort of tapers off into little comments every now and again. I had no problem ignoring them, and we'd already told them it wasn't happening, so I'd just let it run off my back. Around this time, MIL started coming over daily for a few hours, watching the baby for me so that I could sleep and also occasionally clean up a bit for me. She'd be over unsupervised anywhere from 1 to 4 hours. Fast forward to the present day. 2 days ago, my husband poured me a mixed drink, and when I brought the cup up to my lips, I got hit with this paranoid and panicked feeling. I immediately put the cup down and insisted we take a pregnancy test. Sure enough, it comes back positive. We wait until the next morning, take a digital test, and again, positive. Based on LMP, I should have been about 6 weeks along. After getting over the initial shock, we were excited but confused. For several reasons, we hadn't been able to get hormonal birth control, so we'd been using condoms and lube to make sure they didn't tear. So we weren't sure how we'd gotten pregnant, but we're happy with the news. We decided we wouldn't tell anyone because we didn't want another baby stampede from his family, but I'm incredibly close with my sil, so I decided to tell her after swearing her to secrecy. When I told her, her eyes got wide and started to water, and she asked if I was serious, and was I sure. I told her I know my husband and I are young, but between us we make more than enough to support another baby. Sael bursts into tears and starts to apologize over and over. Meanwhile, I sit there with my mouth hanging open and lost. She calms down a bit, and through her tears tell me that my MIL has been poking holes in our condoms pretty much since we came home from the hospital. She claims MIL told her she did it, but she thought that she was just spouting shit because she was upset we didn't have a boy. And suddenly everything clicked into place. That's why the condoms didn't work even though we were careful with them. That's why she'd always shoo me off to sleep while she was around. And that's what she was doing when she was cleaning my house, snooping for our condoms. And she knew I wasn't on birth control because I remember complaining to her about how my OB went on maternity leave and I wasn't able to find another one that took my insurance at the time. I'm so angry I don't know what to do. I want to go right over to her house and tear her a new one so bad I can smell my tires burning in the blacktop. I'm also illogically angry at SIL for not telling me. How could you think this was a joke when she was so specific about everything she was going to do? Why didn't you warn me? I would have put my condoms in my room. I'm livid with MIL. I'm pleased with this pregnancy, but it wasn't my choice. It wasn't even an accident, it was her meddling because she didn't get the golden grandson she wanted. I don't even know how to handle this. I want to scorch the earth, but I also still don't want his family knowing I'm pregnant. And I'm not even 12 weeks yet, so the risk of a miscarriage is still uncomfortably high. The only bright side of this whole thing is it snatched my husband out of his mother's FOG so violently he's probably got whiplash. Personally, my pregnancy has soured a bit, so I'm really trying to hang on to any happiness I have about the pregnancy left. If you have Irish twins of your own or are one, I'd love some positive feedback on that situation. Where do we go from here? ETA update. First, let me clarify. I am 20 years old, not 18. I'm 18 weeks postpartum, not 12. 12 is when I would have conceived given that I'm 6 weeks along based on LMP. Second, I don't give a shit if you think this is fake, I honestly wish that it were. If you don't have advice to give, I kindly ask that you take your judgment elsewhere. Now that that's out the way, here's the update. I want to thank you all for your support and suggestions. Having a plan makes me feel way less panicked and overwhelmed. Sadly, what Mill did isn't a crime here, so there won't be any jail time or charges pressed. For now, the game plan is NC with Mill for me, babe, or growing babe once the truth is out. Before then, I want all the proof in the world she did this. I've ordered a hidden camera, and I'm going to buy new, Latex-free condoms claiming that I'm suddenly allergic to latex. Hopefully she'll poke holes again and I'll have video proof this time. Even if I can't use it to press charges, I want all the proof I have that she's not safe to be around so she can't sue for GPR if this baby is a boy. I also have decided to change our family last name to literally anything else BC. I'm a petty bitch, and since she wants to act an ass over this stupid name, then nobody gets it. As for my husband, he's willing and ready to do whatever I decide. Currently he's asleep, so we'll be discussing everything at breakfast. Thanks again everyone. Spot on comments. Comment 1. If it is a little girl, I hope they name it after OP's mother or grandmother or another influential woman in her life. If it's a boy, I like the idea of giving him his mother's surname for a last name, or something similar. I also don't think Mill should ever see any child that OP and her husband have ever again. Comment 2. I think you have solid grounds to go to the police and see what can be done. Maybe your state, if in the US, has reproductive coercion laws. She's fully admitted that she poked holes in the condoms, and you probably have the condoms with holes in them as I'm typing this. I don't know how you ever get back to normal after this. If you forgive and forget, you're basically telling her she can invade you and nothing will be done in the form of a consequence. I don't advocate for NC unless it's seriously bad. I advocate here because you'll be seeing red every time you hear her speak. Go to therapy so you can properly accept the pregnancy and separate the anger for MIL and your sweet babe. I wish you the best. Comment 3. This is reproductive coercion and it is assault. She never sees either of your children again. At the very least, she never has unsupervised access to your children or you. If Hubs isn't literally in the room, she can't be there. If she does, if you let her get away with this and sweep it under the rug, she will feel entitled to brag for the rest of her life about how she is the reason you have LO2 and how that's her baby, and she's so proud of this completely sick thing she has done to you. She may do it again, she may do it to Sel. This is not a person you can ever trust again. LO1 will always hear about how she wasn't good enough because she was a girl, so Mill did this to you and now you have LO2, and isn't that so wonderful? Your daughter is going to need to be protected from internalizing that she is inadequate, or that reproductive coercion is an okay thing to do. Comment 4. If I were you, I would talk to your local police department and/or a lawyer to talk about legal options. If a couple agreed to use condoms as birth control and one person decided to poke holes in the condoms without telling the other, so changing the terms of the agreement without informing their partner, that probably would be considered some form of sexual assault or fraud at the very least. It should be no different for your Mill. If you have any condoms left in your house, inspect them for damage and save them as evidence. I would also never let her around my kids ever again. She is taking manipulation to get what she wants to the extreme. That's not someone I would want influencing my kids. Comment 5. So either you call the police and do anything and everything you can to destroy this nutjob's credibility and peace of mind. Tell everyone on Facebook, her church, put up her picture with a warning this crazy woman tampers with condoms where she shops. Or I'll just wait for the update where she plants drugs or something to get you deemed an unfit parent to get you out of the way to her kid. Make no mistake, that is how she thinks. This might sound harsh, but honestly, if you don't both call the police and never let her near your family again, I would have to say you are not fit to parent. Do you want a power-hungry lunatic having control over your kids? Because she will never accept anything less than the level of control she wants. If you let her in, she will not give up. She doesn't even think of you as a human being. You are cattle to her. Comment 6. Not much to say that hasn't already been said. Gonna repeat many comments. Good luck with both kids. Speak with your husband about the options with the in-laws. My family had issues in-laws too. Mom's parents talked and joked about beating their religion into us kids, and Dad's sister tried to kill her own kids. My family did supervised visits in public, active parks, restaurants, church, with the all-in-laws, whole family, until us kids were over 18, or relatives proved to parents' trustworthiness and equality. So you have that choice if husband wants to stay in contact with Illifer, change locks, get a door camera, intercept all presents. If it is a boy, raise him with the idea he can take his wife's last name or your daughter can keep hers and husband takes hers. Adopted sister and her fiancé are taking her birth last name. If you keep having problems, trust issues, you can go to a counselor. Most churches/temples/community centers have or know great people to talk to for free or cost. My closest brother is 12 months to the day younger and we were joined at the hip until high school. Shared a room till middle school. Learning things was easier with someone else learning at the same time. I always had my playmate, and we helped each other instead of asking other siblings or parents for help. Comment 7. So, funny thing. You don't have to name your children with your family name. You can name them whatever you want. You could give them a singular name like Cher or Sting. Or to be more subtle, with a great big fuck you. You could give your child the family name of your own parents. When they become obstinate about it, you could inform them that because Mill messed with your health and safety, you have decided as a family that they will not be part of the naming convention. I am curious. It seems your husband supports your decisions regarding planning your future, but I don't see any commentary on how he is handling his parents. Personally, if my parents treated my wife that way, they would have just lost their grandparent visitation privileges. And they wouldn't get them back until they apologized and my wife agreed that they deserved them back. Even still, I would have a mandatory 1-year minimum ban. What if you had been on birth control? Would she have just switched your pills for Tylenol? Because mixing Tylenol and alcohol causes permanent liver damage. Maybe she switched to aspirin. Maybe you're on an anticoagulant after the pregnancy because of a developed clotting disorder. Congratulations, she just killed you. If you got a restraining order against your MIL for you and your kids, it would not be too far. Comment 8. Once you've calmed down, you and your husband need to inform her that what she did was a huge breach of trust and that because of her actions she will never have a relationship with her grandchildren. She can't be trusted, and no matter what craziness she spews, this is worth burning a bridge over. Her actions deserve scorched earth consequences. Don't let her threaten you with grandparents' rights, because those usually only proc if their child has died, plus they have to establish a relationship with the child prior to filing, which as of now they have zero relationship with your next child. Excluding certain states with crazy GP rights, I think NY is one. Kindly tell her to pound sand and that she isn't allowed anywhere near you, your home, or your children, and that any attempt to contact, harass or threaten you will be met with a police call and possibly a restraining order. Don't answer phone calls, don't let her in the door, and do not ever stand and take her words, always turn and walk away. Now to the next story. Story 2. My fiancé doesn't want to invite his Sil to our wedding because she has feelings for him, when it's more the other way around. My fiancé, Will, has a younger brother Charlie, and he is married to Evie. Evie is a beautiful woman both inside and out. She is one of the nicest people I've ever met and is an amazing and supportive friend. Perhaps the best friend I've ever had. Will, Charlie and Evie went to school together. Charlie and Evie have been together for 20 years, they married pretty much straight out of high school. During their time at school, Will and Evie went on one date before she started dating Charlie. Will had been hounding her for a date and she eventually said yes to try and make Charlie jealous, as she liked him but didn't think he felt the same way. Yes, completely aware this is ridiculous, but Evie was 13 at the time. Evie told me about this date pretty early on. She had wanted me to know in case I thought she had feelings for Will. She made it very clear that she's never had romantic feelings for Will and that she just used him for that one date to make Charlie jealous. I do know that Will had feelings for Evie, and from what he's said that he's stopped having them since we've been together. Will and I are currently in the process of planning our wedding for next summer. We've been putting together a list of who we want to ask to be a part of the wedding party and who we want to invite to the wedding. I want to have Evie as one of my bridesmaids because I know she will be supportive and reliable. Will frowned and told me that he wasn't planning on Evie being part of the wedding. I asked if he had a falling out with Charlie and wasn't inviting him either, as they're a package deal as a married couple. Plus there is no way one would attend without the other. He replied that he hadn't fallen out with his brother, but he couldn't see himself getting married with Evie there, as according to him she still has feelings for him and he wouldn't want her to ruin our day. I know for a fact that she doesn't. I asked him if she had confessed feelings or something. He said no, but it's the way she is with him. He gave examples like how she's always around our house. Evie and I run together 3 times a week. As I live closer to her work, she comes to ours to change instead of going home. How she'll make his favorite dessert when we celebrate Christmas at theirs. His birthday is Christmas Eve. How she does little thoughtful things like dropping off baked goods for us, or how she takes an interest in things he is interested in. The 3 of them support the same football team. To me, none of this is Evie showing she has romantic feelings for him. She's just being a good friend. I told him this, but he is insistent on not inviting Evie to the wedding. I know that if Evie isn't invited, Charlie won't attend and it will snowball further as the family are really close, but it will look like I'm the one causing this. I reached out to Evie after the conversation with Will, and I asked her to be honest with me if she had any sort of romantic feelings for Will. At first Evie laughed at the idea of her having any sort of feelings for Will. She then admitted that until I met Will he had made her uncomfortable, but it had lessened since we got together 2 years ago. She explained that Will would make comments about how they were more suited than her and Charlie. He used to send her drunk messages about how they belonged together. She told me that Charlie knew about the messages and they had pulled themselves away from Will during that period but only allowed him back in when I started dating him. I asked her if he had sent her anything like that since we'd been together. Evie went quiet on the phone before saying that he had sent her a message at the weekend when Will, Charlie and some of their friends had gone out drinking. She had canceled on running this week, but hadn't given me a reason, and it turns out that she is avoiding Will. Charlie also hasn't been talking to his brother since the night out because of the message. She sent me the message and it was very explicit. He told her that he wished he was the father of her child. Evie's pregnant with their fourth child, and not Charlie, and how he'd be a better dad than Charlie could ever be. I'm not sure what to do. I love Will and he is convinced that Evie has feelings for him when she's made it clear that she does not. I thought Will had moved on, but he's now sending Evie messages. Is there anything I can do, or is the relationship just doomed? TLDR. Fiancé doesn't want his SIL to be invited to the wedding, saying it's because she has feelings for him. Turns out he has feelings for her and has started sending her messages again, saying that he loves her and they belong together. Edit. Not that it makes anything better. Will was 15 when they had the date. Evie is 6 months younger than her husband. She's 34 next month. I've told Will that we need to talk when he comes back from taking his mum to an appointment this morning. It's nothing serious, just taking her to get new glasses, but she needs the help as she's got mobility issues. I think he knows I want to talk about Evie, as he asked if it was about Evie and the wedding. I said yes, and he sighed before telling me we would discuss it when he comes back. I'm gonna put together a weekend back so I can leave quickly if needed. I've texted Evie and Charlie to tell them I'm going to talk to Will about his behavior because it needs to change and he needs to realize that nothing will ever happen with Evie. Charlie responded wishing me luck and has said their house is open to me if I need it. He also apologized for me having to go through this, as they shouldn't have stuck their heads in the sand about this hoping it would go away. I know I should have brought this up after she told me, but I'm very non-confrontational and will try and avoid an argument if I can. Update. Will and I had a talk when he came back. I told him that I knew about the text he had sent Evie at the weekend. He denied it straight away, telling me she was a fantasist, but quickly changed his tune once I started reading him the text. He then started to apologize and claimed it was just a moment of weakness after Charlie had been showing the group pictures from their family holiday last month. One of them had made a comment about Evie being out of Charlie's league, which reminded Will that he had lost his chance with Evie all those years ago. He then sent her the text. I asked him how he would feel if it had been Charlie harassing his partner, and he just lowered his head and said he would be upset, but that Charlie didn't deserve Evie. I told him that Evie wasn't an object to be given to whoever is deemed worthy of her, and that she chose Charlie, and that should have been enough for him. The fact there is someone out there who loves Charlie for who he is and makes his brother happy should be enough. Will told me that he was jealous of Charlie as he has everything he wanted, and it wasn't fair because he's the eldest. Charlie did better than Will in school. He was better at sports. Charlie is more successful as he was able to do what he wanted. Will feels he had to do what his parents expected, while Charlie could go to uni for whatever he wanted. Seeing Evie with Charlie is a reminder that Charlie has everything he wants. I asked Will if Evie was single and interested in him, would he leave me? Will refused to answer the question, but it was all I needed to hear. I told Will that I was going to stay elsewhere for a couple days while I figure out where I will go because we are over. I don't want to stay living with someone who doesn't care about me. When I went to go and get the bag I packed, Will asked me if he could have the ring back as it is a family heirloom. It belonged to his gran and was intended for whoever got married first, but when Charlie asked for it, Will apparently threw a massive tantrum over it, saying that it should be his as he is the eldest, so their mum said Charlie couldn't have it. I told him no, it was going to the person who it was meant to go to, Evie. I'm now at Charlie and Evie's for a couple days while I figure out getting a new place to stay or if I will move closer to my family. I work for myself, so that makes things easier. Charlie and Evie have decided they will be going LC with Will. They'd go NC, but it will cause drama with the family and neither want that, especially Evie. Will called Charlie asking if I was with them, but Charlie told Will that he had no idea where I was. Charlie then proceeds to tell Will that they are going LC with him because of the way Will has been towards Evie and that he is now doing what he should have done years ago in protecting Evie. Evie has apologized several times as she feels she's the reason my relationship has ended, but I have reassured her that the only person at fault here is Will and I do not blame her for anything. If anything, she is a victim in all of this too. I've given her the ring, but she has said that I should give it back to Mil as she doesn't want it. I wish I had seen Will's behavior before it got this far, but I was blinded by love. Looking back, I can see there were red flags that I just decided to ignore. Spot on comment. Comment 1. Your fiancé is obsessed over another woman to the point he outright told her he wished he was the father of her children, and you don't want to say anything because it may start a fight. OP, you're his placeholder. If Evie did not have a husband or they divorced, he would go for her. This relationship is doomed. Comment 2. Why would you marry someone who is in love with someone else? You are the backup plan. If he ever sees that he has a chance with his SIL, he will drop you faster than a hot-baked potato. Do you really want this man to be father to your children when he would rather Evie be the mother? Comment 3. Girl, you have two choices, each have consequences. Just know from now on whatever happens it's on you. He's going to lie and say it's not true and he loves you, but you know and we all know you're a placeholder. Option 1. You marry him knowing he loves someone else. You resent him and resent Evie because she has something you don't have that he likes. He would leave you in a heartbeat if he had a chance with Evie. You could even have good years with him and get pregnant, but know that he would leave you at any point for Evie. Option 2. You leave him and put yourself first. And later in life you are grateful you didn't settle for him in second choice. Either way your future is yours. You can't blame him in 10 or 15 years why he doesn't love you because you knowingly chose to get married with him, or you can make the hard choice and pick yourself. Comment 4. Please don't marry him. You deserve to be the first choice. You're not with him. That text message is a huge sign to leave him. I'm so sorry, but I really don't think you can come back from this. He's living a fantasy, a lie, and you deserve so much better. Please sit down with him and ask him to explain that text. For me, I'd be out. But if you're determined to make this work, he needs therapy and you should distance yourself from Evie and Charles to see if that helps. But really, I would break up. You have not built a strong foundation for this relationship, let alone a marriage. And if anything ever happened between Charles and Evie, he would want to make a move, even if Evie doesn't want him. I'd hang on to those two as friends and say goodbye to Will. Big hugs. Comment 5. You just found out you are getting set to marry a stalker who is focused very disturbingly on his own sill. And you think this can be fixed? No. It can't. You're being used. Your fiancé wants you in the picture because it brought his brother and the SIL back. You are his "I'm a nice safe guy" costume. Your fiancé is a creep. His family is deluding themselves if any of them think you marrying him will fix the problem of him creeping on Sil. Run. Comment 6. Your fiancé is a 16-year-old pressured a 13-year-old to go on a date with him. Are 13-year-olds even allowed to date? Did he drive a 7th grader to a restaurant? And has been harassing her for years. I honestly can't believe Charlie and Evie haven't cut him off. I feel awful for her that she's had to put up with him trying to manipulate her into leaving her husband and father of her children for him. Now he wants to punish her for not reciprocating his advances by excluding her from your wedding, knowing how much it will hurt when she's so close with you. He doesn't love you. You're a placeholder because he can't have Evie. I'm sorry that sounds harsh, but it's the truth that can be seen plain as day from outside the situation. If Evie told him she wanted to leave Charlie for him, he'd drop you in a heartbeat. I would call off the wedding and be so glad Evie told you all this before the breakup became a divorce. Your husband is a creep.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.
My fiancé asked for a break due to a new guy, so I left and moved cities. She's now stalking me. Her parents apologized, but I refused to talk. I'm 34 years old, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong for refusing to speak with my ex, Sarah, who is 29. There's a lot of history here, and I'll try to explain it fully. In mid-2022, I met Sarah at work, and we hit it off right away. I soon fell for her, and we began dating shortly after. However, Sarah ended our relationship early on due to a little disagreement. To make matters worse, she caused a commotion in front of everyone at work. I was sad, but I did not want to quit my job at first. Eventually, I realized I still had feelings for her, and seeing her every day was too hard. That's when I decided to quit and look for a new job. We lived close together, so we ran into each other regularly over the next few months. We began conversing again, but despite my feelings for her, I couldn't bring myself to consider getting back together. I was terribly saddened by what she had done. After a few months, she told me she regretted ending our relationship over something so petty. She stated that doing it in front of everyone was terrible, and she had been reflecting about it ever since. She appeared sincerely sorry, and I could see she meant it. I asked if she wanted to give our relationship another chance because I believed her apologies were genuine. She consented, and by early 2023, we were formally reunited. 1 year later, everything was going well. We discussed marriage and constructing a future together, which made me feel prepared to take the next step. I decided to surprise her with a proposal and began working additional hours to pay for a house so we could get married. Not long after, I didn't tell her why I was working so hard since I wanted it to be a surprise. Then out of nowhere, she requested a break. I was taken aback, and when I questioned why, she refused to explain. Around the same time, I noticed she had been talking non-stop about a new person at her employment, but then she stopped mentioning him completely, which made me suspicious, perplexed, and hurt. I contacted one of my close friends, Emily, not her real name, who, together with her partner, continued to work at the same company as Sarah. I complained to Emily about what was going on and asked if she knew anything. She replied she didn't because she worked in a different department, but she promised to check around. Emily followed up with me a few days later. She told me Sarah had been feeling distant from me lately, especially since I was working longer hours and not getting out as often. Emily stated that some of Sarah's coworkers had encouraged her to take a break, believing I wasn't treating her well and wasn't as involved in the relationship. On top of that, they were attempting to link her with a new guy at work, claiming they'd be a better match. I told Emily about my plans to propose and purchase a home for Sarah and me. That was why I had been working so much. I wanted to surprise her with something large. Sarah called me after about 2 weeks and suggested we meet. I agreed, but I made it clear that I needed an explanation for why she wanted a break before we could talk about anything else. She mentioned how detached I had appeared, adding it made her feel like I wasn't as invested in the relationship anymore. I told her that if she had just spoken with me about it, she would have realized there was a reason for my actions, but it didn't matter anymore. She then mentioned the new guy at her employment. I said his name before she could, and she was astonished, wondering how I knew. I assured her that I was not an idiot. I noted how she abruptly stopped talking about him after constantly bringing him up. She said she'd never cheated on me. I said that hunting for someone better at the first hint of difficulties may be considered cheating by some. At that point, I informed her I did not want to hear anything else she had to say. It didn't matter if she wanted to reconcile, I was ending my relationship with her regardless. The split left me extremely hurt. I couldn't bear being in the same town, so I requested my employer for a move and used the money I'd saved for the project to start over in a new city. While speaking with Emily, the friend I had previously vented to, she apologized to me. She stated that she had made a mistake by informing Sarah about my plans to propose and purchase a home. Emily stated Sarah burst into tears after hearing that. Emily's candor was welcomed, but it did not influence the outcome. By mid-December last year, I had returned to my hometown to celebrate Christmas and New Year's with my family. Some friends wanted to throw a party to bring everyone together because many of us, including myself, had moved away and were only returning for the holidays. Sarah also received an invitation. We barely spoke that night, just a short hi in passing. I glanced at her and noticed her smiling while speaking with a group of women. That smile recalled so many memories. I realized that seeing her smile made me feel exactly the same way I felt the first time I saw it. I wondered to myself, how screwed up am I that I still feel this way? Despite those residual emotions, I was still saddened and extremely upset by the way things had ended. Looking back, I've started to resent myself. I should have paid closer attention to how she felt. I could have informed her about the additional work and why I was doing it. Perhaps things could have turned out differently. Later that evening, one of my friends revealed that Sarah's relationship with the guy at work had only lasted a few months. After the holidays, I intended to return to the city where I now dwell. My vacation ended on January 6th, so I planned to go on Friday. That way, I'd have Saturday to tidy up at home and prepare for the week ahead, and Sunday to unwind before returning to work. Before I departed, one of my buddies from home contacted me. He stated he had a favor to request on behalf of someone else and warned me that I would not like it. I could already feel my stomach dropping. He then told me it was Sarah. She was moving to the city where I live to work for a relative's company, and she needed a ride. He asked if I could take her. I didn't think about it before saying no. The thought of being locked in a car with her for hours was too much to take. It would have been excruciatingly embarrassing, just like the party, and I wasn't prepared to put myself through it. He insisted that Sarah and I talk, but I was having none of it. I returned home, and last week I went for a run. When I stopped to relax briefly at a park, I heard a familiar voice say, "Hi." It was Sarah. She attempted to start a conversation by asking how I was and emphasizing that we didn't get to converse during the party. But I cut her off, stating I didn't want to speak with her. She told me not to be like that and that we should have a chat, but I declined. She questioned how I could still dislike her after over a year and everything we'd been through, but I told her it wasn't resentment. I was quite truthful. I explained that thinking about her, talking about her, or even seeing her still hurts a lot, which is why I couldn't talk to her. She stated that this was exactly why we needed to communicate. I didn't understand the point, so I simply walked away. Sarah has tried to approach me twice since then, and both times I have turned her down. Some of my pals believe I'm being overly harsh and should talk to her for closure. Others argue that torturing her for the rest of her life is unacceptable, but that is not the point of this. I have no anger or ill thoughts against her anymore. I admit that I share some of the blame, but it still stings. I can't talk to her because it's like reopening an old wound that has never completely healed. So, Aida, why are you refusing to talk to her? After reading the comments, The original poster thanked everyone for their advice. The OP simply wants to explain things better. OP explained that their friends were not contacting or emailing them, telling them to talk to Sarah. It was simply the perspective of some of them when the matter was raised. Update, February 2, 2025. Hello everyone, I wanted to provide an update and appreciate everyone for their thoughts. I read over each comment, and while I didn't react to everyone, it was only because I didn't have anything to say. I'm grateful to everyone who expressed their opinions. It's been quite helpful. After reading everything and thinking about it, I've chosen to adhere to my choice not to speak to Sarah. I neglected to include it in my original post, but I did notify a few people that I blocked her everywhere after we broke up for the second time. Over the last 2 days, it appears that her insistence has backfired. Some of our shared acquaintances, including those who first suggested I talk to her, have become tired of her continuous attempts to reach me. They appear to have turned against her as a result of this. Emily, the friend I was venting to at the time, posted about stalkers on social media 3 days ago. She did not name Sarah, but many people understood what she meant. I've also seen a few comments on my initial post that suggest Sarah was stalking me. Her job in the same city, as well as her serendipitous arrival in the park, support this theory. For what it's worth, I know her uncle owns a company here, so that could be the real reason she moved, but that's not my concern, and I'm not going to investigate it. Things have been quieter. Friends have abandoned the subject, and Sarah hasn't attempted to contact them again. That was until yesterday. I watched the UFC event with some coworkers. When it ended, I was on my way to my car when my phone called. A mutual friend called. She stated she had spoken with Sarah and asked if she could relay a message. I sighed and urged her to get it done quickly. Sarah just stated that she knows why I don't want to talk to her. She vowed she wouldn't contact us again, but she still believes we should communicate. She said the door was open if I ever wanted to discuss. I told my buddy I didn't have a message to return and begged her not to bring Sarah up again in our chats. If what Sarah mentioned is correct, it is a relief, but I am not holding my breath. I wouldn't be surprised if she tried something different. Perhaps she believes that giving me space will compel me to approach her, but it will not. That chapter of my life is currently closed. I simply want to focus on myself. I doubt I will be dating anyone anytime soon. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that I should get to know individuals better before committing to a relationship. I've also been thinking about how loosely I use the term friend. That's another aspect of my life I need to reconsider. Some of the people I've called friends have shown that they don't have my best interests at heart. A couple folks mentioned therapy in the comments, and I'll confess it's something I've thought about. For the time being, I'm allowing myself to heal on my own, but if I don't feel better after a while, I'll look into it further. Thank you to everyone who took the time to remark. Your counsel has been quite helpful in sorting everything out. Update 2. February 16, 2025. Sarah has been missing for several weeks, and no one has mentioned her in discussion. That is a nice thing. Then, last Tuesday, February 11th, I received a direct message from Sarah's mother. She stated she wanted to apologize for her daughter's actions and requested me to call her. I've always had a good relationship with Sarah's parents. They are genuinely lovely individuals. Even during both breakups, they were always respectful and never went too. I didn't want to talk about Sarah anymore, but I also didn't want to avoid her mother. After considering it for a few minutes, I decided to phone her. However, if she tried to get me to communicate with Sarah or anything like, I would gently cease the call. When she responded, she put me on speaker so Sarah's father could join us. I almost expected to hear Sarah's voice, but thankfully, that did not happen. The conversation was actually very good. They began by apologizing for Sarah's recent actions. I quickly informed them there was nothing to apologize for, but they insisted, claiming it was the right thing to do. They also said that they had no idea what was going on until recently. When they found out, they called Sarah and had a lengthy conversation with her. Her father confessed that the chat was more appropriate for an adolescent than an almost 30-year-old woman. Sarah vowed that she would stay away from me and seek therapy. I felt relieved, not just for myself, but also for her. Everything that happened between us was not ideal, but I sincerely wish her the best. I hope she finds happiness. Before we hung up, I thanked her parents and expressed how much I admired and respected them. I can now state with certainty that this is over. Sarah would never violate her parents' confidence. Thank you everybody for your advice, it meant a lot. Now to the next story, Story 2. I discovered that my stepdaughter had been manipulated by her biological father into investing her tuition money in a fake startup project. "Why don't you just disappear?" my stepdaughter said during a fight. Her mother joined in. "We'd be better off without you." I didn't say anything, I had just packed my suitcases. This morning, my phone exploded with 13 missed calls. Something seemed strange when I strolled into our living room. The house was abnormally silent, but that wasn't all. My gaze swept over the room, attempting to determine what was wrong. Then it struck me. All of our family photos looked different. I took a step closer to the enormous frame above the fireplace, which was from our trip to Yellowstone last year. The photo was present, but I wasn't. Every photo of me had been painstakingly erased, creating embarrassing gaps in family memories spanning the previous 3 years. I was standing there, my coffee cup becoming cold, when I heard Stella's upstairs door softly close. My stepdaughter's footsteps stopped at the top of the stairs. She had obviously seen I was awake. After a brief pause, she walked down, phone in hand, purposefully avoiding eye contact as she headed toward the kitchen. "Morning," I said, my tone calm. The hush that followed was thick with intention. 3 years. That was how long I'd been in Stella's life. 3 years of gradually establishing trust, of movie nights and math homework assistance, of attempting to be present without going too far. At the age of 16, she began to drift away. I expected ordinary teenage rebellion, but this seemed different. It began last week, when I offered to assist her with her chemistry project. She'd been grappling with the subject, and I figured it didn't matter what I thought. Her remark was like a slap. "Stop pretending you care about my grades. You're not my real dad." I'd heard variants of that before, but something about her tone was different, sharp and intentional. My wife, Delilah, was in the kitchen and must have heard, but she did not say anything. That quiet felt like taking sides. The tension grew over the week. Small things. Dishes left in the sink, with pointed looks. Doors close a little too harshly. Conversations halted when I entered the rooms. Delilah also became distant, avoiding my attempts to clarify what was going on. "She's just being a teenager, Thomas. Don't make it about you." But everything burst last night. Stella was texting during supper, which goes against our customary norms. When I gently reminded her, she threw down her phone. "God, why are you always policing everything I do? Why can't you just leave me alone?" "Stella," I said. "I'm just trying to..." "To what? Play dad?" "I already have one." She stood up, the chair scratching against the floor. "Why don't you just disappear? Nobody asked you to try so hard. It's pathetic." I looked at Delilah, not sure what I was expecting. Support? Mediation? Instead, she placed her fork down and calmly murmured, "Maybe we'd all be better off if you did." The words hung in the air, like smoke. 3 years of memories flew through my mind. The day Stella first laughed at one of my dad jokes, the night she called me in tears after her first boyfriend broke up with her, and Delilah's proud smile when Stella requested me, not her mother, to help her pick out her prom outfit. I stood up slowly, my food half finished. "Okay," I replied simply. "Okay, what?" Stella demanded. But something flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps. "If that's how you both feel, okay." I strolled upstairs to our bedroom and took out my old duffel bag. I could hear them whispering downstairs, but no one came up while I gathered enough clothes for a few days. I saw that my hands were not shaking. I felt strangely relaxed. Stella had already left, most likely to her room, when I arrived. Delilah stood at the kitchen doorway, arms crossed. "So you're just leaving? That's your solution?" "You said you'd be better off," I responded, looking for my keys and wallet. "I'm respecting that." "That's not, I didn't mean..." She paused. Pride, wrath, or something else kept her from saying what she wanted to say. I took up my purse. "I'll be at Ryan's. I'll figure out something more permanent soon." I hesitated at the doorway. "You know, when Stella said those things before, it hurt. But hearing you agree? That broke something, Del." I drove to Ryan's apartment in solitude. He looked at me and immediately set up his guest room. That's the type of friend he is. I turned off my phone and took a sleeping pill from my emergency travel box. This morning, I awoke to find sunlight flowing through unfamiliar drapes. When I eventually turned on my phone, it was filled with notifications. 13 missed calls, 8 from Delilah, 3 from Stella, and 2 from Quinn, my sister. 27 text messages, 4 voicemails, I have not listened to them yet. I'm sitting in Ryan's guest room, watching the morning traffic below, and thinking about the empty places in our family portraits. Maybe they were always there, but I didn't want to see them. My phone vibrates again. It's Stella. After everything that has transpired, I find myself staring at her name on the screen, wondering what is so necessary right now. But I am not ready. Not yet. Walking away isn't always the hardest part, it's deciding whether to walk back. Update 1. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who left positive comments on my previous post. I did not expect such a large response. To answer the most common questions, yes, I have read the messages. No, I have not responded to any of them yet. And yes, I am still at Ryan's. This morning began like the others, me pretending to focus on work while glancing at my phone, debating if I should break the stillness. Then Ryan dropped a bomb during breakfast. Miles is back in town, he announced, sliding his phone across the table. On Facebook, there was a photo of Stella's biological father posted at a local restaurant. 2 weeks ago? The same Miles who hasn't paid child support for 3 years. The same Miles who had missed Stella's last 4 birthdays. Suddenly, everything made sense. I scrolled through my messages again. Delilah's communications have evolved, from angry to, very mature, Thomas. Instead of talking, run away. To the concerned, please let us know you're fine. To something more complicated. Her most recent read, there's something you need to know. It's Stella, please call. Quinn arrived about lunchtime, ready with coffee and that no-nonsense expression she gives when she's about to meddle in my affairs. You look like hell, she said, sliding into Ryan's couch. Thanks. Always good to see you too, sis. She did not smile. I ran into Stella at the mall yesterday. That caught my interest. How is she? Meeting Miles. For coffee? She didn't see me, Quinn said, observing my reaction closely. She looked hopeful. You know that look she gets, like when she's trying not to get too excited about something? I understood exactly what she meant. It's the same expression Stella had when she was accepted to the summer camp last year, as if she was terrified to believe something good was happening. Did you know he's been messaging her for months? Quinn asked. Promising to make things right this time? My stomach turned. I checked Stella's Instagram, which I rarely do. Her most recent post was a snapshot of her and Miles. Caption: Real family time. Her friends' replies were loaded with heart emoticons, and none of them were aware of the background. Ryan, who had been quietly listening, eventually piped up. Remember what happened last time he showed up? Stella was 13. I remembered. Miles had arrived with huge promises, stayed for 2 weeks, and then vanished again. Stella remained in bed for several days afterward. Delilah and I spent months regaining her trust and assuring her that she was enough. That she deserved more. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a text message from Delilah. He's asking her to move in with him. She's actually considering it. Please, Thomas. I know you're angry with me, but she needs you. I began typing multiple responses. I deleted them all. What could I possibly say? Sorry, you told me to disappear, but now you need me to reappear? The entire event seemed like a terrible joke. Then followed another notification. Stella's latest Instagram post, a photo of college brochures scattered across her bed. The headline reads, Big change is coming. Sometimes you have to choose your real path. Miles said those precise words 3 years ago, right before he traveled across the country to pursue his true passion and stopped returning Stella's calls. Quinn must have noticed something on my face. What are you thinking? I glanced at my phone, reading Delilah's message. Then I quietly said, I'm thinking about the day I married Delilah. Remember what Stella said in her speech? How sometimes family finds you when you're not looking for it. Quinn nodded. And now, I sighed. Now she's posting about her real family and her real path while Miles plays Father of the Year. He's got her convinced. My phone began to ring, and I came to a stop. Unknown number. Thomas, this is Miss Anderson from Riverside High. I'm Stella's guidance counselor. I know this is unusual, but I need to speak with you about some concerning changes in Stella's academic plans and recent behavior. Would you be able to come in tomorrow morning? I consented to the meeting, my thoughts racing. Stella had maintained straight A's since freshman year, anxious to attend a good institution. What might have changed? Quinn and Ryan both looked at me expectantly as I hung up. So? Quinn asked. I think it's time to stop being silent. I took up my phone and eventually opened Stella's voicemail. Her voice was low, unlike her normal assurance. I know you probably hate me now, and I get it. I need to tell you something. About why I said those things. About Miles. Please call me back. Something in her voice reminded me of the 13-year-old girl who would check the mailbox every day, hoping for a letter that never arrived. I have a meeting with the guidance counselor tomorrow at 9 o'clock. After that, I believe it is time for some honest conversations. Because disappearing occasionally allows you to view things more clearly from a distance. The school's number is still shown on my screen. Next to it is a text notification from Miles to our family group chat, which I am still a part of. Great news! Big announcement at dinner tomorrow night. I have a feeling I know what the announcement will be. And I will not let history repeat itself. Update 2. I spent the last hour figuring out how to write this update. The meeting with Miss Anderson showed something I had not expected. And what happened next? Well, let me start at the beginning. I arrived at Riverside High early and observed students rushing to the first period. A couple of Stella's classmates knew me, and their quick glances and murmurs informed me that stories about my absence had already circulated. Miss Anderson did not waste time after I sat down. Stella submitted paperwork to withdraw from her advanced placement classes yesterday, she explained, sliding a form across her desk. She's also dropping out of the French club and student council. When I asked why, she said she's transferring schools next semester. My chest tightened. Stella battled hard to get into these programs. She had been counting on extracurricular activities to help her college applications. There's more, Miss Anderson added. Last week, she asked me to send her transcripts to 3 different schools. All in California. She halted and attentively observed me. The same city where Miles recently purchased property. That's when things started falling into place. I brought out my phone and showed her Miles' huge announcement text. Let me guess. He's opening a new business out there. She nodded. Stella mentioned something about a startup. Said her father needs family investors to get it off the ground. The usual, nauseous feeling returned. The same one I received 3 years ago, when Miles persuaded Delilah to lend him money for a sure-thing business endeavor. We never saw the money again. I left the school and drove directly to our house. Delilah's automobile was in the driveway. I could see her pacing in the kitchen with a phone to her ear. She saw me and ran to answer the door before I could knock. He asked her for money, she replied promptly. Her college fund. He's been filling her head with promises about this tech startup. Saying that if she invests now, she'll make enough to pay for any college she wants. Where is she? Coffee with Miles. Again. Delilah's voice broke. I tried telling her it's a scam, but she accused me of being jealous. That he's finally stepping up. She said at least he believes in her dreams. I sat down at the kitchen counter, the identical location where everything collapsed a week ago. Why didn't you tell me he was back? I tried to handle it myself. She exhaled. I wondered if I could keep them apart. She shook her head. Then you and Stella got into an argument and she said terrible things, and I just panicked. I sided with her because I was terrified not to. She'd go all in for him. Before I could react, the front door opened. Stella walked in. She froze when she saw me. She looked different. Makeup applied carefully. Stella was dressed in an expensive jacket Miles had most likely purchased for her. But her eyes were crimson. What are you doing here? She asked. However, her voice lacked its typical sharpness. Are you dropping your AP courses, really? I kept my tone gentle. What happened to Stanford? Plans change, she murmured, avoiding my gaze. Dad says. Miles says, I said gently. Something flickered on her face. He has connections out there. The startup is guaranteed to. As if the classic car dealership were guaranteed? Or a food truck franchise? I took out my laptop and opened the documents that I had spent the morning gathering. I did some digging. Want to know Miles' current company registration status, or his credit report? Or about the 3 ongoing cases from his previous guaranteed investment opportunity? Stella's hands trembled as she grabbed the laptop. With each click and document, the careful facade cracked a little more. When she reached the lawsuit filed by his prior stepdaughter's grandmother to collect college funds he had borrowed, the first tear flowed. He said. She swallowed hard. He said he had changed. He wants to make up for lost time. That we could be a true family if. She paused and looked up at me. A photo album. He stated I needed to prove I was choosing him. That you were the reason he remained away. You took his place. Oh, sweetie, Delilah approached, but Stella stepped back. I knew, she said quietly. I guess I knew. But I desperately wanted to believe. Her phone vibrated. Miles sent another SMS. She stared at it for a long time before shutting it off entirely. I have to go, she murmured quickly, rushing for the stairs. I need to think. We let her leave. Sometimes the most generous thing you can do is provide space. Hours have passed. Delilah and I talked, truly talked, for the first time in weeks. Regarding worries and blunders. About Stella, Miles. About us. Around midnight, I was preparing to return to Ryan's when my phone lit up with a text from Stella. I messed up. Everything's messed up. Can we talk? I mean, really talk? Not about Miles or money or anything, just, remember when we used to have ice cream after my dancing classes and you'd let me rant about school drama? Could we do that? I know I don't deserve it, but I'm composing this from my car, which is parked outside our local ice cream shop. It's supposedly closed, but the owner recognizes us. We have been coming here for 3 years. He is staying open late just for us. Stella just arrived in her mother's automobile. She's sitting there, probably gathering up the nerve to enter. Exactly as I am. Sometimes the most difficult conversations begin with the slightest steps. Or, in this case, mint chocolate chip ice cream at midnight. Final update. That night in the ice cream shop altered everything. Stella spoke for hours. About Miles' manipulation. Her anxieties and guilt. But it was something she said in passing that piqued my interest. Miles had asked Jessica to get her friend's parents to invest in his firm as well. Something clicked. I remembered the lawsuits I'd discovered, a pattern of targeting families through their children. The rage I'd been hiding now had a purpose. You know, I explained carefully. What he's doing isn't simply ethically wrong. It is illegal. Stella glanced up from her melting ice cream. What do you mean? I described securities fraud and unlawful investment techniques. Her eyes widened as she took out her phone and showed me the group conversations where Miles was directly soliciting investments from children. That night, after sending Stella off, I made some phone calls. Quinn has a friend in the SEC. Ryan knows someone in the district attorney's office. By the morning, I had a plan. Miles didn't see it coming. He was too preoccupied with his big announcement dinner, where he intended to persuade Stella to hand over her education fund. He had also invited the parents of some of her friends, adding to the list of prospective targets. The dinner was held at an expensive restaurant. Miles was in his element, discussing Silicon Valley connections and assured profits. I waited for the appetizers to arrive before rising up. Before we continue, I said, there are some people who'd like to join us. On cue, 2 federal agents and a state investigator entered. Miles' face changed from confident to confused, to terrified, in seconds. Miles was operating more than one fraud, it seems out. The detectives discovered 7 different fraudulent schemes in 3 jurisdictions. Every time he reconnected with Stella over the years, he would set up new victims. The classic automobile dealership that cost Delilah her funds was part of a broader scam scheme. The food truck franchise follows the same pattern. But here's the beautiful part, he'd gotten sloppy this time. He had documented everything in texts and emails to Stella, believing she would never turn against him. When she forwarded the messages to the investigators, his fate was sealed. Are the parents present at the dinner? They wore wires. Every promise, lie, and illegal investment pitch was recorded. Miles tried to run, knocking over a waiter before sprinting for the door. He took 3 steps before being stopped by security. As they led him away, he gave Stella that manipulative puppy dog expression that she had fallen for so many times. This is all a misunderstanding, sweetie. Tell them. I am your father. Stella stood up, shoulders straight. My father's right here, she said, taking my hand. And he just watched you get exactly what you deserve. The aftermath was intense. News coverage, victim statements, more families are coming forward. The investigators discovered over $2.3 million in stolen funds. Miles estimates 15 to 20 years. His startup consisted solely of a website and some stolen photos of a real tech company's office. But the true victory was not witnessing Miles' arrest. It was the brief moments that followed. Stella placed all of her photos with Miles in a box and donated them to the prosecution. Evidence, she said, with a hint of her old smile. She reapplied to her AP courses. In light of the circumstances, the school was understanding. Instead of being angry, her friend's parents formed a support group for families impacted by similar scams. Something good came from something bad. Stella asked me last night for help with her college essays. I have a pretty unique story now, she explained. How many people can write about bringing down their biological father's fraudulent empire? Delilah and I are in counseling. There is trust to rebuild and wounds to heal. But watching her meticulously place my photos back in the family albums and straighten each one, that expressed more than words could. Stella came down early this morning for breakfast. She carried an envelope with her. I found this in my room, she explained, passing it across the table. Miles asked me to send it last week. It is investment documentation for his startup. I figured you would want to add it to the evidence file. I stared at the envelope, then at her. Do you want to deliver it to the investigators together? She grinned, the genuine, unrestrained smile I had missed. Can we get ice cream afterwards? Some may argue that the vengeance was excessively severe. Whatever happens, that family is still family. However, a real family does not strive to take your future. A real family will protect you, even if it means shielding you from other relatives. Miles' sentencing date is next month. Stella plans to read a victim impact statement. She's spent weeks working on it, painstakingly rewriting each word. She requested me to review it yesterday. It needs a good ending, she went on. Something that shows I'm not just his victim anymore. I believe she's already found that ending. It's in the way she holds her head up right now. In how she assists other children in identifying similar schemes. In the college brochures on her desk. Her actual route. Not the one Miles attempted to sell her. Moving on sometimes entails ensuring that the past does not harm others. And sometimes, the finest retribution isn't simply watching someone face consequences, it is thriving despite them. We are having a family meal tonight. Only the three of us. Stella's making her famous pasta sauce, which she learnt while watching cooking videos with me during lockdown. Normal, boring, and wonderful. Things related to the family. Miles will have plenty of time to ponder about these things from his cell.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.
I was sidelined by my family's favoritism toward my adopted sister until her shocking true identity was revealed at my birthday party. Family trouble has plagued me, 35F, for as long as I can remember, but recent events have now gotten to the breaking point. I feel like I'm drowning in hurt, uncertainty and hatred right now, so I'm hoping anyone who has experienced a similar circumstance may offer some guidance or insight. To put things in perspective, my adopted sister, 34F, is just 1 year younger than myself. She was adopted by our parents when she was a newborn, and I have spent my entire childhood with her. That would seem to bring us together, like a couple, but the truth is far from that romantic notion. It was evident from my very first recollections that our parents gave preference to my sister. They lavished her with attention, gave her everything she desired, and appeared to listen intently to everything she said. When I proudly showed my mother a sketch I had done when I was 5 years old, she dismissed me since my sister was reciting the alphabet for the 100th time. Although it might not seem like much, it was a sign of a pattern that would shape our family's dynamics for many years to come. The distance between us just got wider as we got older. My sister had trouble reading in elementary school, and our parents worked with her for hours every night. Even though I did exceptionally well in school, I seldom ever got more than a passing good job on my report cards. My sister had a dance recital in middle school, so my parents were not there at the award ceremony when I won the scientific fair. That was always the case. Her wants, accomplishments, and hardships all came before mine. I don't want to imply that I was abused or neglected in the conventional sense. Our fundamental necessities were always satisfied, including having a roof over our heads and food on the table. However, the emotional neglect was genuine and extremely distressing. Early on, I discovered that being flawless, achieving, excelling, was the only way to garner any attention in our home. So I did just that. With an almost obsessive zeal, I immersed myself into my studies. In high school, I was cooped up in my room preparing for AP exams and filling out my college applications while my sister was out at parties and hanging out with friends. It was worthwhile. I received a half scholarship to a prestigious university. This will finally make my parents proud, I thought. However, instead of applauding my accomplishment on the day I departed for college, they fussed more about how my sister would handle my absence. College was enlightening. I was evaluated entirely on my own merits, not in relation to my sister, for the first time in my life. I made true friends who appreciated me for who I was, and I flourished both socially and academically. I obtained a position at a prominent company after graduating with honors. With unwavering resolve, I ascended the corporate ladder during the ensuing 10 years. My inner voice, which still yearned for my parents' praise, propelled me to every advancement and accomplishment. I'm pleased of what I've accomplished and currently work for a Fortune 500 firm in a senior management role. However, that pride is constantly laced with resentment because my family never seems to be satisfied with whatever I achieve. In contrast, my sister has never truly settled into a profession and has alternated between jobs. She still resides with our parents, who provide her with both emotional and financial support. My parents may have been pleased by my accomplishment, but it appears that it has just strengthened their partiality for my sister. They constantly offer justifications for her lack of focus, such as, she's just trying to find her passion. or not everyone needs to climb the corporate ladder to be happy. At the same time, if my achievements are recognized at all, they are frequently greeted with a lackluster congrat. Our family relationships have been damaged in every way because of this dynamic. Family get-togethers are a minefield of barely veiled bitterness and passive-aggressive remarks. I've made an effort to discuss my feelings with my parents, but they consistently brush them off as envious or too sensitive. As for my sister, she seems to take great pride in her preferred position and frequently makes disparaging comments about me being married to my job or too busy for family. I've been in therapy for years in an attempt to resolve these problems, boost my self-esteem, and establish sound boundaries. But every encounter with my family seems to set me back, regardless of how much progress I made. I've thought of severing all connections, but it would be devastating to lose my family, dysfunctional as they are. This leads me to last week's events, which have caused me to reevaluate every aspect of my relationships with my family. As is customary, our parents threw my sister a lavish birthday celebration. Friends, extended family, and even some of her former classmates were invited. With catered food, an open bar, and even a live band, the house was decorated as though it were a wedding ceremony. As a comparison, last month's birthday was celebrated with a little dinner for the four of us, during which the most of the discussion focused on my sister's most recent business venture, a pet-related social media app that she believes will be the next big thing. After approximately 2 minutes, my parents' eyes drifted away as I attempted to discuss a significant project I'm overseeing at work. I made an effort to blend in at the party. I tried my best to encourage my sister on her special day by interacting with family members in a courteous manner and striking up little conversations. However, as the evening went on, I sensed the old bitterness rising within me. It wasn't just the extravagant celebration. It was also the way our parents showered her with praise, how family members inquired about her life while hardly noticing mine, and how she absorbed all the attention as if it were her natural inheritance. In an attempt to calm the anxiety attack I could see coming on, I found myself withdrawing to a corner and drinking a glass of wine. When she saw how upset I was, a cousin came to see how I was doing. With sincere concern in her voice, she inquired, "Are you okay?" For the first time that evening, someone had taken the effort to inquire about my well-being. I started to reply, but my sister's voice broke through the throng before I could. She raised her voice and tapped her glass with a spoon, saying, "Attention everyone. I'd like to make a toast." As everyone's attention was drawn to my sister, the room became quiet. She was a little shaky on her feet, and her cheeks were flushed, which indicated that she had consumed a significant amount of alcohol. As she began her address, she was still able to put on a convincing smile. Initially, it appeared to be a standard birthday greeting. She toasted our parents for their love and support, thanked everyone for attending, and conveyed her appreciation for the celebration. Her tone then shifted and I got a shiver down my back. She said, "I'm especially grateful to Mom and Dad," with a tone of voice that I had never heard before. I've always received greater treatment from them than their own daughter. Just take a peek at this celebration. When was the last time they threw my sister a party like this? As everyone in the room turned to stare at me, I felt my face heat up. But my sister wasn't finished. "But I guess that's because I've always been the better daughter," she added, sounding a little slurred by the champagne. "Yes, my sister has a nice career and makes a lot of money, but who do Mom and Dad truly love in the end? Who makes their life happier? It's not the icy, work-driven automaton who hardly has time for family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing and was still. With the exception of a few painful coughs and my sister's voice, which seemed to get louder by the second, the room had become eerily quiet. She said, "You know, it's funny," with a tiny wobble. Everyone constantly praised my sister's intelligence and her potential for success, but look at us now. I'm here with family and friends who genuinely care about me, while she's by herself, married to her job. I turned to our parents in the hopes that they would intervene and put an end to this vicious act. However, they only sat there, appearing uneasy and doing nothing to stop it. I had never felt more alone in my life than I did at that precise time. My sister continued to babble, criticizing every element of my life, including my appearance, the fact that I didn't have a romantic partner, and even the suggestion that I succeeded in my work by sleeping my way to the top. I felt myself getting smaller with every word, years of repressed hurt and rage threatening to blow up. My aunt, our mother's sister, stepped up just as I was about to burst into tears and thought I could take no more. She had a determined and angry expression on her face. I was standing when she approached and gave me an envelope. Her voice broke the tension in the room as she stated, "Don't open this until I'm done talking." Her eyes were flaming as she turned to face the throng. The scene that followed resembled a scene from a soap opera. According to my aunt, my sister wasn't taken from a foster home. She was her biological daughter. It seems that my aunt wasn't prepared to become a mother when she became pregnant suddenly in her early 20s. She requested my parents to adopt the child instead of ending the pregnancy. My aunt continued, "I thought I was doing the right thing," her voice trembling with passion. "I believed that my sister and her husband would provide a better life for my child. I believed she would develop into a nice, caring person who was appreciative of her life. However, instead, she turned to face my sister, who had turned completely white. Instead, you've developed into a conceited, self-centered brat who believes it's acceptable to make fun of her sister in public." I've watched this familial dynamic unfold for years, and I can no longer keep quiet about it. Chaos broke out in the room. Screaming, my sister demanded to know whether it was true. Our parents were shooting daggers at my aunt while attempting to soothe her. Family members were pointing and muttering. And me? I felt as though the earth had vanished from beneath me as I stood there, gripping the envelope. Once more, my aunt's voice broke through the cacophony. My aunt expressed her dismay, saying, "I always thought that if my daughter was being raised by my sister, she would grow up to be a wonderful person. But obviously, I was mistaken. No good person would ever attempt to make their sister look as bad as you just did." Then, turning to face me, she instructed me to open the packet. There was a blank check inside. My aunt told me to fill in whatever amount you want. I had planned to give this to her as a birthday gift, but after seeing how she's turned out, I have no interest in rewarding that behavior. My aunt then left, leaving a startled quiet behind her. It was short-lived. In an attempt to take the check out of my hands, my sister lunged at me. She was so hysterical that our parents had to physically restrain her as she shouted and sobbed. It was more than I could handle. I fled to my room, shut the door, and sobbed. Years of suppressing my hurt and bitterness and feeling inferior came rushing out. I ignored the banging on my door and the muted arguments coming from downstairs while I sobbed for hours. A week has passed, and I'm still unsure about what to do. With the exception of needs, I have not left my room. Despite our parents' attempts to speak with me, I find it difficult to confront them. My sister has alternated between begging for forgiveness, and the check of course, and sending me angry messages. There's a part of me that wants to cash that check, go and never return. I've tried all my life to win the love and acceptance of people who don't seem to be able to give it to me. Perhaps I should give up trying. Perhaps it's time for me to prioritize myself. However, I also have a fear of losing my family. Despite their dysfunction, they are the only family I have ever known. It's terrifying to consider living without them, going on vacation by yourself, and having no one to call in case of an emergency. In addition, I'm experiencing a lot of mixed feelings regarding my sister. On the one hand, I'm upset with her for her actions during the party and for years of subtly insulting people. However, I can't help but feel a little sorry for them. It must be really upsetting to learn that you're adopted, especially in such a humiliating and public manner. Does that justify her actions? Not at all. However, it makes matters more difficult. Regarding my parents, I find it hard to comprehend how they could have watched while my sister sobbed at me. Were they simply taken aback? Or does their lack of response reveal their true feelings for me? Years of emotional neglect and favoritism, how can I even start? I feel as though I'm at a fork in the road and am unsure of which way to go. Should I make an effort to repair these damaged relationships? Can something wholesome be constructed from such a poisonous base? Or do I go on and attempt to start over, one in which I'm not always looking for unfulfilled approval? Reddit, I'm lost. I've tried my entire life to gain the love and acceptance of my family, only to be rejected and humiliated in the process. From here, how do I proceed? Should I accept that certain families cannot be repaired, or is there any chance for reconciliation? Any insight or counsel would be greatly valued. I feel as though I'm drowning in hurt and confusion, and I'm no longer sure which way is up. First update. 2 days have passed since the terrible birthday celebration, and I'm still getting over it all. My aunt came to visit me this morning. As she continued to discuss the adoption, she appeared worn out. When she became pregnant, she was young and afraid. It seemed like the ideal option for my parents, who had been trying for another child. To keep everyone safe, they decided to keep it a secret. For years, she had been accumulating money with the intention of transferring it to my sister when she was ready to be self-sufficient. She came to the realization that I was more deserving after the party. She gave me an empty check. I felt both guilty for stealing something intended for my sister and justified that someone recognized the unfair treatment. Despite my attempts to decline, my aunt persisted, claiming it was back pay for emotional labor. That evening, I decided something. I checked into a hotel across town, packed my luggage, and left my folks a note. I needed time to reflect. I ignored the calls and messages from my relatives throughout the course of the following several days. I performed some introspection, talked to my therapist, and sought advice from a financial advisor regarding the check. I sent my folks an email 5 days later. I assured them I needed time but was secure. I laid up my requirements for mending our relationship. They had to admit to the years of partiality. All of us go to family therapy. My sister apologizes in public. They start treating us equally and cease condoning her actions. They instantly responded that they were relieved and asked me to come home so we could discuss. We decided to get together at a cafe close to my hotel. It was a stressful encounter. My parents agreed to treatment and pledged to improve our ties, as if they were sorry. They expressed reluctance to publicly apologize for my sister's adoption, claiming it was traumatic. I refused to back down and insisted that she issue a public apology for her actions. With an uneasy truce we departed. Everything but the public apology was approved by my parents, who indicated they would talk to my sister about it. Over the following few days, the negotiations went on. At first, my sister sent irate messages and refused to apologize. But as I persisted, her tone started to shift. She apologized via text, saying she was unhappy and intoxicated at the party. I retorted that the apology should not only be for the party event but also for years of nasty behavior. More irate texts followed, and then there was stillness. My parents attempted to mediate the situation by offering solutions like a written statement or an apology limited to the family. I was conflicted as this went on. There was a part of me that wanted to be forceful and insist on the respect I so well earned. Another part wondered if fighting was worth it because it was so exhausting. I was reminded by my therapist that putting my health first is not selfish. Setting boundaries, she stated, is necessary for healthy relationships. I've made the decision to offer my family one final opportunity to comply with my demands. I'll use my aunt's check to start over somewhere else, away from family strife and past hurts, if they are unable to. I'm feeling both nervous and optimistic as I get ready to give this order. Whatever occurs will influence my life and relationships in the future. I'm hoping I'm making the correct decision. I will update you. I appreciate everyone's support. Knowing that I'm not fighting this battle alone is reassuring. Second update. Since my last update, which was a week ago, things have drastically changed. I've made the decision to revoke the terms I established for reconciliation, but not for the reasons you may expect. After arguing with my family for days, I came to the conclusion that their attempts at compromise were more about minimizing the harm than showing sincere regret. Increasingly manipulative, my sister's apology texts alternated between gaslighting and guilt-tripping. "You're tearing this family apart," she'd write, and then, "I don't even remember what I said at the party. Are you sure you're not exaggerating?" In the meantime, my parents persisted in trying to reach a solution that seemed to ignore the true problems rather than deal with them. They objected to the concept of admitting their part in creating this unhealthy relationship and instead proposed a private family gathering where my sister would provide an apology. I started to lose sleep, check my phone frequently, and get nervous whenever it buzzed as the pressure increased. It became evident that my mental health was suffering as a result of this negotiation. At that point, I decided to remove my conditions, not because I believe they are irrational, but rather because I now understand that meaningful change cannot be coerced or negotiated. My family just isn't there yet, and it must originate internally. I wrote my parents a quick email. "I'm rescinding my previous conditions. I need space and time to heal. Please respect my wishes and don't contact me for a while." They reacted with astounding speed. The volume of calls, texts, and voicemails on my phone surged. I had to ask security to take them out of my office once they arrived. They also reached out to a few of my pals in an attempt to persuade me to return home. "We love you, please come home. How can you do this to us? And your sister is devastated. She's not eating," were among the desperate, angry, and manipulative texts they sent. Emotional warfare has been going on nonstop. Sometimes the guilt is unbearable. Sometimes I question whether I'm exaggerating or whether I should just go home and try to forget everything. However, I also recall the years I spent feeling invisible, having my accomplishments disregarded, and seeing my sister consistently given preference. To assist me deal with the stress, I've started going to my therapist twice a week. By borrowing my family's phone numbers and configuring email filters, she has been assisting me in establishing boundaries. Although it seems drastic, it's essential for my mental health at the moment. My workplace has turned into a haven for me. To avoid returning to my empty flat, I've poured myself into tasks and stayed late at work. Some of my coworkers have expressed concern after noticing the difference in me. Even if I can't adequately describe the circumstances, I appreciate their support. I still haven't paid my aunt's check though. As a continual reminder of the decision I must make, it rests in my desk drawer. To show that I don't need their money or approval, I feel like tearing it up. Some view it as a lifeline, an opportunity to start over somewhere new. I've begun looking at employment prospects in other cities and even other nations. It is both exciting and frightening to consider a whole transformation. Was it truly possible for me to start afresh and leave everything behind? I'm taking things day by day for the time being. I'm getting better at accepting the unease that comes with uncertainty and having faith that I'll know what to do when the time comes. Certain days are more difficult than others. Sometimes I miss my family so terribly that it hurts my body. However, there are also unexpectedly peaceful moments when I notice that my breathing is easier than it has been in years. I am aware that this voyage is far from finished. There will be more emotional obstacles to conquer and more challenging choices to make. But I'm prioritizing myself for the first time in my life. It feels right, but it's also unpleasant and uncomfortable. I appreciate all of your ongoing help and guidance. Having this place to process and share is more important than you may realize. When I have more to report, I'll provide another update. I'm concentrating on getting better and finding my identity outside of my family's shadow in the interim. Third update. 3 weeks have passed since my last report, and things have significantly worsened. When my sister unexpectedly showed up at the door last Saturday when we were visiting my aunt, we were taken aback. She stormed in, obviously drunk and furious, yelling, "You've ruined everything. You are attempting to take my life after stealing my mother." The stench of alcohol was overpowering, and her eyes were crazy. My aunt and I had to hold her back as she lunged at me. Allegations were made by my sister, who said I had always been envious and had turned everyone against her. Even after everything that had transpired, the hatred in her voice was startling. I was shocked by my aunt's response. Her normally composed manner had vanished. "You need to leave now," she said forcefully, her face hardening as she dragged my sister out of the house. My sister resumed her tirade outside, attracting neighbors' attention. "My mother is not you," I heard her shout at my aunt. "I was exposed to you. You can no longer act as though you care." A few of the neighbors threatened to contact law enforcement. My sister eventually pulled away in her automobile. My aunt was clearly shaken within. She revealed that she struggled with guilt over the adoption during our hours-long conversation. She had believed that telling the truth would fix things, but she now understood that the harm was much more extensive. "I believed I was acting appropriately," she muttered. "However, I might have just made things messy for everyone. Wide-ranging effects have resulted from the occurrence." Later, my parents called in a rage, accusing me of trying to ruin our family and inciting my aunt against my sister. I tried to explain things to them, but they refused. Members of the extended family have taken sides, causing the family to become severely divided. What started out as a private issue has turned into a full-fledged family conflict. The intensity of it all overwhelms me. I feel guilty even though I know it's not my fault, but I also want to withdraw and start over somewhere else. Because of my sister's condition, my aunt is worried about my safety and has proposed that I remain with her for a bit. I'm thinking about it, but I'm afraid it could make things worse. I'm making an effort to remain somewhat normal throughout this whole ordeal. I try to look after myself, go to work and see my therapist. However, this familial conflict is a continual burden. I wonder if this will have any repercussions. Is it possible for a family to overcome such ingrained animosity and rage? Is it better to give up or is it worth trying? I'm trying to avoid getting pulled back into the pandemonium and am concentrating on my own recovery for the time being. Even though it's difficult, I'm committed to finding a solution, whether or not my family is on board. I appreciate your unwavering support, everyone. You don't realize how much it matters. When I can, I'll provide another update, ideally with more positive news. Update 4. A month has passed since my last update, and I've made some decisions that will change my life. I came to the realization that I needed to take immediate action to safeguard my mental health and create a future for myself following the tumultuous incident with my sister at my aunt's place. I've poured myself fully into my profession, asking my supervisor if I may move to another location to work for our company or take on more responsibility. I was surprised by how supportive she was. I'm currently in the running for a senior management job that would take me across the nation. It's thrilling as well as frightening. Along with the opportunity to oversee a large project, the new position offers a substantial wage increase. To get ready for this change, I've been working 12-hour days, going to every training session I can, and networking frantically. My increased zeal has sparked curiosity among my coworkers, but I've been able to sidestep most inquiries. A few close coworkers are well aware of my predicament and have been tremendously helpful. Regarding the money part, I ultimately decided on my aunt's check. I made the decision to cash it after giving it a lot of thought and spoke with a financial advisor. I was able to reframe it as an investment in my future, one free from toxic family dynamics, with the assistance of my therapist. I've secured an apartment in my prospective city using a portion of the funds. With a view of the city skyline, it's a compact, contemporary space. I've put the remainder into a diversified portfolio. I feel autonomous and financially secure for the first time in my life. The final separation from my family has been the most difficult aspect. All of their phone numbers and email addresses have been blocked by me. I've requested that my aunt not forward any of their texts. I know it's essential for my recovery, but it's been excruciating, like cutting off a piece of myself. Of course, there are periods of uncertainty. I occasionally feel inclined to phone late at night in an attempt to make amends. However, I then recall the years of gaslighting, the ongoing sense of inferiority, and the violent altercation at my aunt's house. It makes me more determined to keep going. I recently began seeing a new therapist who focuses on estrangement and familial trauma. She has been assisting me in overcoming my sadness and guilt. To replace the family-centered customs I've left behind, we're concentrating on establishing a new network of support and developing new ones. Additionally, I've joined a support group for those who are separated from their relatives. It has been both upsetting and consoling to hear their stories. I've learned that I'm not the only one going through this and that you can have a happy life without the family you were born into. Regarding my aunt, we have kept up our friendship while setting clear limits. She doesn't try to act as a mediator and accepts my decision to break off contact with the rest of the family. Although her assistance has been priceless, I'm careful not to rely on her too much. I feel a mixture of exhilaration and apprehension about the future. Though intimidating, the idea of starting over in a new place with a demanding new job and no family safety net is also freeing. I feel for the first time that I am living my life according to my own terms, free from societal norms and familial expectations. I've begun pursuing new interests and pastimes that I never had time for while I was preoccupied with family matters. I've joined a local hiking group, I'm learning how to cook, and I'm even thinking about painting. I've not felt this at peace in years as I pack up my flat and get ready for this new phase. Yes, I am saddened by what I have lost, but I am also hopeful about the future. I'm no longer the neglected kid or the family's scapegoat. I am only me, paving my own way. I want to thank everyone for their support along this journey. You have no idea how much your words of support have meant. My last update will be this one. I should put this chapter behind me and concentrate on writing the next one. Good luck to me.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.